Welcome, everybody, to the Modern CFO Show, where we sit down with some of the best and brightest minds in finance to share their experiences and their lessons learned. And today with me is Amanda Matthews from PartsBase. Amanda, can you kindly just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about your experience and what it is that you do currently?
My name is Amanda Matthews. I am currently Chief Financial Officer of PartsBase. We are the largest online marketplace for aviation and aerospace parts and services. And we also have an annual industry trade show in Miami Beach called PB Expo. I've been with the company for a little over a year now, and before that, I was controller at a B2B SaaS company. I've also been at robotics and at a mobile app for meditation.
Wonderful stuff. So I'm gonna be picking your brains about some of your previous roles because obviously you've got so much experience that I think the audience can learn from. Just to kick things off, I think from our previous conversations as well, your route to becoming a CFO, I guess, is a little bit non-traditional. I think you've kind of proven that leadership roles are accessible without your conventional career path, So I think, would you be able to just kindly give us an overview of your journey, and just tell the audience maybe some other angles that they can think about just to get their foot on the ladder and how that works for you?
In particular, my non-traditional path was around my education. I was the first in my family to get a four-year degree. I went on to get my MBA and my CPA license, and I did all of that while working full time. When I first moved to Boston from New Hampshire, where I grew up, I was in my mid 20s and still in undergrad, and I used to be a little embarrassed about the fact that I was still in school. Of course, now I could not be more proud of the path that I forged for myself, and I want other people to know that you don't have to have a traditional path for it to be impressive. Uh, by working full time while going to school, I was also able to gain experience while getting my education, so I ultimately wasn't behind anyways. And then another area that I'm a little non-traditional, I refer to myself as CFO Barbie. Uh, I am a fashion model and compete in beauty pageants, and I want people to know that leadership doesn't have to look one specific way, and you don't have to compartmentalize the different parts of yourself to be taken seriously.
Yeah, this is it. And I think like it does happen with, I guess, not just CFOs, but a lot of the C-suite, they're seen as a certain way, right? So maybe there's especially young females that maybe want to come in to become, especially in leadership positions. You've kind of proven that you don't have to do the standard way. Young females can go in and have the exact same opportunity as anybody else. I'd love to know, whilst you was moving up the ladder, did you ever face any like skepticism because your background was non-traditional? Like, how did you maybe handle it compared to your peers? And just to make sure that you got your foot in the door, did you have to work maybe a little bit harder than those with the traditional backgrounds?
Yeah, I think because I ended up falling into tech, tech seems to be a little more accepting of non-traditional backgrounds. I was fortunate after I did tax for public accounting. I had actually a female CFO who took a chance on me and hired me as senior accountant. And then the role ended up not being full time. I let her know that because
Mm.
my time wasn't really filled. So she sent my resume out to other CFOs, and just through that recommendation, I ended up getting on full time somewhere else. So really, I think it comes down to recommendations, proving yourself, and then the rest goes from there.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think like you have to put your foot through the door and you don't know what opportunities are going to come a little bit later. I definitely want to hear a little bit more about this CFO Barbie title because I've never heard this before. And obviously you are officially now the queen of that. I wanted to ask, I guess doing your fashion side of things, being a model, it's a lot of hard work and doing that alongside being a CFO. Would you say that that's opened more doors for you? And also, what advice would you give to somebody that, wants to put a bit more of themselves out there? Maybe they've got a hobby that they want to post on LinkedIn, work on their personal brand a little bit, but maybe they're a little bit scared because traditionally the CFOs are supposed to be, really serious and number crunchers. And obviously you've proven that doesn't have to be the case. What advice would you give to, young finance stars that want to work on their personal brand, and how's it helped you?
Yeah, I think in particular, both like runway modeling or being on the pageant stage, it really teaches you confidence, poise, and those are obviously crucial to leadership and being an executive, and also putting yourself out there. I believe in, not only being relatable as a leader, right? Sharing both sides of myself helps my team relate to me. It helps other leaders feel comfortable relating to me. It brings out the human side of being an executive, and I think that helps foster collaboration.
Yeah, especially when you can be, I guess, the most open version of yourself, just unapologetically you. You don't have to hide behind or be a certain character in the office. You can just be who you are, and I guess your peers relate to that and they respect that as well. Um,
Yes, exactly.
Another quick point I wanted to touch on, I think you obviously received a bachelor's in management science, if that's correct,
Yes.
um, with accounting concentration, MBA from Boston College. What of those achievements taught you about business that you've applied into the CFO role?
So there've been a few different aspects. Obviously, the concentration in accounting helped prepare me for the CPA exam. And then the management science piece I really loved because I have an interest in psychology, and it really teaches you about the human side of a business. A lot of people say, it's not personal, it's business, but ultimately, I think business comes down to the people and who you're working with and collaborating with. And in particular, I loved organizational behavior and understanding how people are motivated. And then for my MBA, I really focused on financial analysis and data analytics, and that helped me understand, how systems tie together. And that's also where I took my operations management course to get my Six Sigma certification in streamlining processes and continuous improvement.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to hear more about the Six Sigma side of thing because I've actually been learning a little bit about this from some previous podcasts and also doing a bit of research myself. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that. Is also I think like as you mentioned earlier, I think sometimes when you go through a traditional route, you're taught certain ways and you face 4 and 5 years of getting in a bubble of learning things, I guess, the right way on paper. But then once you're out there in the real world, I guess, is there anything that you've learned that kind of contradicts what you was taught in business school that you've taken into the CFO role that, I guess you was taught to do it one way, but in reality, you've gone ahead and excelled in that and kind of made it your own. Is there anything that's kind of been a contradiction that you've then excelled in after?
I would not say necessarily, which might be because I was always working full time while
Mm,
in education. So I was actively applying it or altering it to fit the actual situation I was in at a company
mm.
at the time.
Yeah, well, I suppose you don't need to change it, right?
Right.
If it's working, that's exactly what you're studying. That's what you know. There's no need to overdo it, I suppose. Is there any kind of technology or tools that have had the biggest impacts on how your finance team operates? So I wanted to ask, obviously coming into, PartsBase, for example, when you come into a new business, what's some of the first things that you look to improve on? What does your current tech stack look like at the moment? And how are you utilizing that in 2025?
So, unlike a lot of CFOs who go from company to company implementing the same tools, I like to take a fresh approach, assess what the current company's specific needs are, and implement tools based on that, which might not be the same from company to company. That being said, I do have a couple of go-tos for my ERP. Recent companies I've gone with Intact, which integrates really well with other tools. That's a big piece too, is making sure all of the financial systems will integrate together so we can have a seamless flow of data. And then I love having a task or project management tool for my team. Two that I prefer are Asana or ClickUp because they have really good collaborative features, which I find essential for working together. And then I actually across companies, I have found Ramp as a non-payroll spend tool to be incredible. It covers company credit card expense reimbursements, AP automation, and everyone from leadership, employees, and finance all love the tool. And one feature they have that's particularly helpful is their virtual card program, which has a lot of flexibility while still having controls that are customizable. So that's a tool. It's really like a next generation expense automation tool, and that's been really great to use.
See, I think that's the smart way to do it because I've had plenty of conversations, not just in the podcast, of course, but just in general, where I hear people go in and say, right, this is the way I've been doing things for the past 5 years. I'm going to now integrate a Slack if we've never had it before. We're going to be using this software because it's my way of doing things. But I think sometimes they do that without asking the team, double checking what needs, what the business needs are. So the fact that you go in and then pick and choose what's relatable to that business is probably the smarter way to do it. I did want to follow up and just ask how, I know it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but how like AI and automation has kind of changed your organization. Have you kind of lent into a bit more of the AI and automation part, or are you still relying on, the CRMs, the kind of classic way of doing things? And are you using AI to kind of help with forecasting or reporting? I'd love to hear about that.
We are looking for that for 2026. I know there have been so far the ROI on AI implementation has been pretty
Mm.
limited. So once we have our full, we are just in the final phase of our fully integrated system. We're implementing a commission system next, which will be the final piece for our company. And then I want to start looking to AI, and that might mean, not staying on the same ERP long term and updating to something that's really next generation.
Yeah, I think like I don't know about you, but I think the most important part now is that I guess CFOs just remain adaptable, right? Because I think even for myself, I'm a creature of habit. If I've got one software, I don't want to learn a new one. I know this one inside and out, but now we're hearing, some amazing AI and automation tools. So I think, yeah, just thought it'd be good to ask if you've dabbled into that just yet, and obviously if PartSpace is integrating into that. But I guess another question I wanted to ask is, no CFO is going to be complete without their team. And obviously, you've just mentioned that you base what tools and software that you use based around the impacts on your team and what they can get out of it. I want to know how is it that you build and retain a high performing finance team at PartSpace?
Yeah. So I actively seek feedback and ideas from my team. I believe that, they're the ones doing the day-to-day tasks. They will have the most valuable insights on improving processes and how to improve collaboration cross-functionally. And that not only helps the department and the company, but also helps them feel engaged in their work. And then I start every meeting with a concept called stop lighting, where each person goes around and, red, yellow, green updates. It can be a mix of personal or professional. I lead by example, doing a blend of both as well. And then fostering that helps foster psychological safety among the team as well.
Oh, perfect. Right, I see. I guess it's important to make sure everyone feels heard, right? I think sometimes as leaders we have to lead and we have to choose the correct path, but especially if you're in such a large team, 50, 100, 200 employees, it is difficult to get the most out of everyone, and make sure that everyone gets heard. So, could you mind just saying again what it is that it was called that you do at the start of every meeting? Is it
Uh, yeah, it's stop lighting.
right?
So like a stoplight, red, yellow,
Mhm.
green. Red would mean, I'm really not doing well right now. I'm overwhelmed. I'm falling behind. Yellow is, kind of a blend, and green is I'm in the groove. Things are moving forward. I'm focused. No roadblocks.
Mm.
But again, it can be I allow room for personal to be mixed in there as well.
And is that like individual? Is that like just part of a like everyone on one call together, like the team's comfortable with each other and just everyone knows how they're doing?
Yeah, yeah, we do that in our team meetings, and then I do it in my one-on-ones as well.
Perfect. Oh, that sounds like a plan. I also wanted to ask, I know PartsBase is quite a large company, and I know as leaders it can be quite difficult to maintain motivation, engagement, especially in quite a high pressure environment. I know it's a bit of an off the cuff question, but is there any ways that you kind of make sure that you keep the team engaged? This is whether it could be, off-site interactions, catching up on a bit more one-to-ones, making sure that you're there helping in the day-to-day. Is there any kind of tips that you would have for other CFOs to keep up motivation with their team?
Yeah, this actually circles back to my love of organizational behavior. There's a theory of hygiene and motivation factors. So, hygiene being factors that contribute to dissatisfaction, like pay or policy, and then there's motivators like responsibility and recognition. I have a few different ways to engage in these. So for recognition, we use Teams, and so, or if I was using Slack, I do the same thing. I set up a channel. I think it's either called props or shout outs, where
Mhm.
I do a congratulations on something that someone does, and they can congratulate each other as well. And then during our team meetings, we not only do, that kind of connection with the stoplighting, but we also play games, which is fun. And during the game, like a little online trivia game or something, you kind of learn about each other, or we've done puzzles and there's just a little chit chat. So just ways to stay connected. We are a remote company, so I think it's
Okay.
important to add intentional connection.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important, especially over times where it was COVID, for example, where I don't know if you guys have all been remote the whole time, but I'm just thinking out loud. Everyone could have been in the office, and all of a sudden everyone's now working from home, and I guess you can find yourself getting a bit lonely without even realizing it sometimes. So just constant contact with your team, having a bit of fun now and again definitely does help. Would you say, I don't know if you would agree, but I feel like compared to say sales, especially in the finance team, they don't always get the most recognition, right? I think if you look at a business, it's always your sales teams that would get most of the praise because they're bringing in the revenue, but the finance teams are the heart and soul of the business. When you say there's recognition, is that kind of company wide? Is that just in your like the finance team itself? How does that kind of work for you at the moment?
At this company, it's within the department, but I have been at companies where they have it company wide.
Ah, I see. Even better. Another quick thing I wanted to ask Amanda. I know we spoke about this earlier, but you are Six Sigma Green Belt certified, and obviously, I just want to love to learn how that you've implemented those strategies into your company and what the benefits have been. And also, for the audience that don't know, if you can kindly quickly explain what the Six Sigma belt is for them to learn as well, that'd be amazing.
Sure. So Six Sigma is a framework for identifying inefficiencies, reducing variability, and then driving continuous improvement. Personally, I have always been obsessed with efficiency and I'm very growth oriented, so it's not surprising that I would be drawn to this. Um, I what I love the most about it is probably the documentation side of things. When I go into companies, I assess policy and process documentations, get them updated, work with my team on doing detailed step-by-step SOPs. And then I love flowcharts. They help identify responsibilities, and you can see bottlenecks or inefficiencies in a process. And then having all of this documentation together helps with cross training, or if anyone just needs to understand a process or how to do something, it's all right there and easy to understand.
So I guess it's like a rule book. Would that be right to say? Almost like a guide that's there, and you can put that into different departments, and make sure everyone's kind of aligned to that strategy. Would that be
Yes,
right to say?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I think kind of going back to your earlier question about school maybe not applying directly, um, in the traditional way, it would be fairly slow. And
Right.
I'm at what kind of quicker moving companies, so I kind of simultaneously do the assessments while doing documentation, which has worked out well at the organizations I've been at. And then another really important principle is the voice of the customer.
Right.
It is really important in Six Sigma. Um, for finance department, I don't see this just being our external clients at the business, but also vendors, investors, auditors, and then internally, ultimately, employees are the customers of finance in a variety of ways.
Mm. So you not only take that just your finance team, that's expanded into, customers, other remits, other people that you speak to. It's not just an in-house thing either, I guess, like you've said.
Yeah, you
Have
really
you
want to make sure you're building processes that support them.
I see. And have you ever, I guess, like modified those to fit the concepts into your company a little bit more? So say you've got one kind of rule or one strategy, like do you then kind of modify that and align that more to each business that you go into, I guess? Is that how that would work?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think feedback is important too.
Yeah, because obviously you don't know where you're going to go unless you get that feedback to make sure that you're still on the right track, I guess.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
I did actually want to finish off on a bit of a quick fire round, if you wouldn't mind. So I'm just going to ask a quick few questions. What book, podcast, or resource has most influenced how you think about leadership and finance, if you can kindly share?
Sure. There's actually two books that have been really influential by the same author, Michael Watkins.
Mhm.
One is The First 90 Days, which a former colleague and friend, Katrina Weiss, recommended to me. This it really helps with transitions. It could be transition into a role or a new company, or even just a transition period at a company and how to handle that and lead the company through that. And then the other is the six disciplines of strategic thinking. One of the concepts he focuses on is vision, mission, strategy at the corporate level, but I had the idea to apply that to my finance function, especially when transforming it, because this way I can have a vision for the department. The mission is the reason why, and then the team can understand how we're getting there through the strategy.
I see. And so, what was the name of that book again? First 90 Days.
The First 90 Days and the Six Disciplines of Strategic Thinking.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if you weren't a CFO, what career path would you have taken? I think I'm going to guess what that's going to be. But yeah,
Oh, I want to hear your guess.
I was gonna say model, but you are kind of doing it
Oh,
already. Model, fashion, that kind of thing. But maybe you might throw a curveball out there. So I'd love to
I
hear.
am going to throw a curveball. Psychology.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I love understanding human behavior, including my own. But I guess I kind of apply that through business as well. Like really understanding people is the core of what I do as a leader.
I know. I mean, to be honest, I was gonna finish off on a quick fire round, but since you've opened it back up, the I've always been interested, and I wouldn't say I've studied it or anything like that, but I think psychology plays such an important part of leadership, really. Like getting to really like when you go into those one-to-ones, and I know I do it with my team now and again, is you kind of can just sit down and have a 5-minute conversation, but I think really understanding what that employee is going through and mapping out how we can help them is a night and day difference, and I think we have that responsibility as leaders. Is there anything that you think other CFOs can do, just like psychology wise, that you think they should be paying a bit more attention to? I know it's a bit of a random question, but just based on psychology, if there's any tips that you may have.
Yeah, I think curiosity is really key, and asking questions, and also leading by example by being vulnerable sometimes and being relatable helps other people feel comfortable doing the same in return, so you can really understand what they're going through.
Perfect. So exactly that. I was kind of thinking, sometimes we go into these meetings and I think it's good to show vulnerability sometimes, which I think sometimes we're all a little bit scared to do, but I think it plays
Yeah.
a massive helping role. And lastly, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received that you can now share with others that can really help them?
Yeah. So you've probably heard of the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. I try to live by the platinum rule, treat others how they want to be treated. This kind of goes back to some of the psychology aspects, but it's really about meeting people where they're at and understanding that their wants and needs might be very different from your own. It also does take curiosity and empathy to try to understand them. But then it is helpful not only in personal relationships, but business as well, because you can really help understand how to motivate different people.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing way of thinking about it. I think sometimes we do always forget that, right? That sometimes we have to play that role and help develop people in the way that they want to go into, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Amanda, I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. I'm sure the audience has learned a lot. I've actually learned a lot, so thank you again. If anyone wants to reach out to you, just following up from listening to the podcast, what's the best way that they can reach out to you? We know whether that's email, LinkedIn, just so they can get in touch.
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Amanda Matthews, or even on Instagram at the Amanda Matthews.
Perfect, brilliant. Amanda, thank you so much again for your time. I do really appreciate it. And more importantly, have a lovely weekend and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zach.